Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Msingi Talks podcast. It is a privilege to be here to host you, to be in conversation with all of you. And also today it's a high honor and high privilege to be in conversation with Dr. Wandia Njoya. Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
Thank you for saying yes to this conversation.
I can't refuse. You know me, I've been saying this work of yours is important.
Asante.
Yes.
Asante for your support. Asante for holding my hand. Asante for your encouragement. I really appreciate it. Ikazi siezi peke yangu.
Yeah.
So, Wandia.
Yes.
Introduce us to yourself. Who is Wandia?
Okay.
Yes.
I'm Wandia Njoya, married to Chris Limo, very proud wife of, mother to Collins.
Yeah.
What else would I say? I'm a Kenyan, I'm an African, a woman. I am a Christian. What else would I say? I would say I'm a Pan-Africanist. I really believe, and a humanist in terms of the Ubuntu kind of humanity, where our humanity, we also recognize the role of the spiritual and the environmental as part of our being human. So I'm not human rights, that kind of...
Just humans.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not we are the only ones in the planet.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
So I think that's what I would say in a nutshell.
Okay.
And I teach.
Yeah.
Let me also say that. I teach at university, but also I consider the internet my classroom.
Yes,
so,
we learn every day.
Yes.
We learn so much from
you. I moved to social media because the system, there are things I want to say, there are things I want to tell people that I can't do through the classroom.
Yes.
So those lessons are on social media.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
And we learn. And thank you as part of your online classroom students. We are consistently learning from you, and you really have been a voice, especially around the education sector and your passion for education. I think a lot of us have never connected what education and our well-being and the role of the government in education and so many things and our national identity, and so thank you. A lot of them. So, what are the things that you enjoy doing that people would not necessarily think you enjoy doing?
Washing dishes. Imagine.
Yes.
It has become my therapy.
Yeah.
But that one is a new thing.
Yes.
It came when I listened to, there's an anthropologist called David Graeber, and he said that, there's work which you do for creating, but there's also work you do for maintaining.
Yeah.
If you don't do the maintenance work, like with dishes, if you don't wash them, you'll have to be buying plates and spoons all the time. So that changed the way I think about housework and about dishes. So
I also
when I
enjoy dishes, actually.
I
prefer the one I will not do. Afadhali nilale njaa. I'd rather sleep hungry. I will not wash clothes.
Yeah, actually, even me, clothes is not my thing. But dishes, I'll wash. I'll put a podcast. Let me listen to Carol with Botebi.
Yes.
So I put it there, and that's what I'm doing. So it's almost like my space when I'm doing it. So that's something I enjoy doing these days.
Okay.
It's not it has not always been that way. It's a new thing. I like creative work. Okay. I used to... In my younger days, I used to be a dressmaker. I was sewing.
Oh, wow.
I made clothes. So that gives me a lot of joy. I used to knit also sweaters. So there was a time I said, I'm going to knit a sweater for each member of my family.
Yes.
I think I did only 3. But that gives me joy, just making something out of something else.
Okay.
I love teaching, I love being in the classroom, and I love conversations.
Yes.
Because, you know me, I grew up sort of like an institutional kid. I'm at church, I'm at school. You know, my life is very mutaratara.
Yes, PCA.
Very ordered.
Yes.
But so there are many things I feel I didn't learn, but I have started learning a lot through conversations.
Okay.
So conversations bring me joy. And then my family also gives me a lot of joy.
Yeah.
Loving somebody. Having someone who loves me.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yes.
Yes.
So
And shout out to Chris.
And shout out to Chris.
Yes.
So all that, I think in a nutshell, creativity, dignity, and love, which is what I say on Maisha Kazini, my channel. Anything that brings dignity, that makes us creative, and that builds our relationships. That's what gives me joy.
Okay. And what brings you sorrow?
Inhumanity and injustice. Wow. Even like, was it yesterday? I was just telling God, wow. You know that PS who said the threat to Kenyan environment is overpopulation.
Oh, I saw that in passing. Yeah.
It hit me. I really felt that one made me feel very bad. How can you say human beings are a threat to themselves?
Yeah.
I mean, what are you saying?
Yeah.
So that kind of ignorance, lack of self-consciousness, that keeps me awake all the time.
And it sounded like he was reading from a script by some NGO somewhere.
Yeah, but that's what the government says all the time in different ways. You know, like even when people come up with something and then you see a law against it. Like when I was giving that example a few weeks ago, when matatus were told, now if you send parcels anywhere without a license, we'll fine you 300K. I mean, what is that? I mean, why are we so anti-creativity? That when people invent things, the first thing you want to do is regulate or crash it.
And actually, the reason matatus became the way to post parcels is because the post office failed.
Exactly.
Yes.
So you make it's a logic of failing. You know, you don't allow things to succeed, and anybody else who tries to replace that, you come at them with licenses, fees, police. That keeps me awake at night, because the education system is the one that trains people to think like that.
Yeah.
I know Kenyans don't want to believe it. They have refused to believe it.
Yeah.
But that logic of death and anti-creativity, anti-humanity, it's the school system that is pushing it. And nobody wants to believe it. So that keeps me awake at night, because every morning I wake up, I ask, how can I convince Kenyans that there's something wrong with this system? So that's what brings me sorrow. I hate to see injustice.
Yeah.
I hate, was it yesterday I was watching a video of a mama who in Mathare, whose house had been demolished in the name of riparian, and she's weeping. Hey, me, when I see those women cry like that, I just keep quiet. I just say that is a direct prayer to God, and it's a curse on somebody.
Yeah.
Whoever gave this order, whoever is implementing it, imagine, let them know God so. God so. People can't cry like that, and you're just saying, oh, regulation, oh, and then environment.
There's riparian for Mathare, and then there's a different riparian for Runda. Yes.
That one.
Yeah.
That one just makes me angry. But it's that level of injustice where you are not even sensitive to what it means to be human. That one, it gets to me. It just enters me. I'm just like, no, you can't do that. But yeah.
Oh, yeah. So thank you for sharing the things that bring you joy and sorrow. Today's conversation, we are trying to mesh two worlds. We are having a conversation around justice and the role of faith. And I'm curious, and I want to say the reason why this conversation started. We have these conversations regularly.
Yeah.
But a month and a half ago, when the floods raged in Mathare, they killed a friend of mine. I was not planning to cry, yeah? They killed Mama Victor.
Yes, I saw that.
Yes, and Mama Victor was a victim of the system. Yeah? So she'd lost her child, like 2 sons,
yes,
in the 2017 post-election violence. And those are the reasons. Those are the thing that's the reason she became an activist. And so you see, even the premise is a painful one. And so she coordinated what is called the Mothers of Victims and Survivors Network. And so on this day, when the floods raged, she was in her house with her daughter and a grandchild. And then there was another woman who was part of the network as well, who was there with, I think, two or three children. In total, there were 8 people in that house. And and one person, it's only one person that survived. The rest had come to this home to shelter.
Oh no.
Jacinta, she's called Jacinta. Jacinta and her family had come to Mama Victor's house because it was a better house to shelter. So in the span of just one night, 7 people lost their lives. And so I think she was discovered on the Tuesday, and then on the Friday, I was someone who I work with, was being ordained to be a bishop around Huruma. And so because of solidarity, I went to that ordination. We were there from 10 to 5 p.m. It's less than a kilometer from where Mama Victor perished, and many others. Not a word was said
about what had happened.
Yes. Dorcas Rigathi was there. I can tell you when they said, let's pray for the flood victims. It was at 2:22 p.m. because I checked. I was there in conflict in my soul because this is a lady who supports me, supports our work, and I'm here for solidarity. But I wrote a post on my Instagram and asked, for real, where Jesus is right now is not here. Jesus is where we are looking for dead bodies. And it reminded me of Amos, where he is, I hate your songs. Yeah? Your sacrifices are an abomination
to me.
And
they stink.
They smell. They stink.
Yeah.
And I kept saying, Lord, we are here. We are smelling. Because we are not where we are supposed to be right now. This is and yes, I'm like, we can't stop the ceremony. But there's ways to be in solidarity with people. So that was day one of where this conversation was starting. Then on the Sunday, the same week, in the evening, then as it was raining, we went for a vigil in honor and celebration. I felt like I was standing on holy ground. From being in the church the whole day, it was when I stepped foot there where I felt holiness. Amidst despair, amidst pain, amidst loss, I felt holiness and a deep solidarity, because what was happening there was that people were planning. Human rights defenders were now planning to bury 7 people whom most of them they don't know. Yeah. And then so that was the Friday. Then the Sunday, I had to go to a concert, and it was also at a church where it's within Kibra. Same thing. There is this death next door, and what is here at this very moment is a lack of recognition of what's going on in this country.
Yeah.
Yeah? And so I'm asking, do they not sing? No. Sing. But what songs are we singing? And how are we involved in that? And so when I texted you and asked you, Wandia, how do you do church? Because I can't.
Yeah.
And at that very moment, I was having a panic attack. My very first panic attack. My soul could not recognize what was going on within the environments where I was. I left. I stayed outside for 2 hours as the songs were going on. And then we went to dinner. A friend asked me what was going on. I left where they were and I went to the toilet to cry. And one of the things my friend told me is that, Carol, the reason you're crying, the reason this is so hard for you is because you're called for this thing. So
yes, you are. Yes.
It's like, hi, Lord, this is hard.
It's very hard work.
Yes.
But in this Kenya, it's very hard work.
Yeah. And so I ask you, Wandia, how do you do church and why?
Hey, I also struggled, especially around 2014 to 2017. I work in a Christian institution and I was suffering. And every time I go to church, there was one thing that used to really get on my nerves. I remember a series being done on the workplace and how it is a glory to God. What?
I can hit the term the workplace.
I was just like, are you serious? Are you not going to talk about corruption and bad leadership? You're just going to assume that everything at work is to the glory of God.
Yeah.
So that used to irritate me, and I would leave church feeling more tired than when I went in.
Yeah.
And then I realized every time when you go to church, even till today, there's a way in which you're like, I hope they don't say something that just makes you cringe again.
Yeah.
Because those things are said so many times.
Yeah.
You know, people like, in fact, there was a time we were having a conversation about this and somebody said he was in a service, it was in Jonjomwe. He was in a service where somebody says, the American invasion of Iraq was for the glory of God. I mean, so you're just like, I mean, which world are people living in? And how come I'm so different?
Yeah.
And then you're sitting through the sermon and thinking, I know. No, I mean, this thing is pain. What you're saying is wrong.
Yeah.
And if there was a time I went and ranted on Facebook and I got so much backlash, I'm told you're not supposed to criticize the pastor. You're a child of a pastor. Yes.
Touch not the
You're a
anointed.
pastor's kid. You know, why are you saying these things? So it was a struggle. It was a real struggle for me. Where did it change? I think healing, first of all, from those wounds that I had gotten, which took a long time.
Yeah.
It has taken about 5-6 years for me to just get over all the years of that pain. But what changed? I think I started reading. There's something James Cone said that has always been in my mind, and I think it came to the surface over the last few years. He says theology is a human interpretation of faith, of God. Meaning you're taking full responsibility for your interpretation of faith.
Yeah.
You're not saying my interpretation of faith comes from God. You're actually owning and saying, this is a human interpretation of faith. So because when he was saying that Jesus is black and Jesus came for black people are like, it's not in the Bible. I don't know what. But he's saying, no, this is a theological enterprise. I am interpreting faith so that it is relevant to my situation. You take full responsibility. Does that mean there's no God in faith? No. But you're basically taking responsibility for your side of faith.
Yeah.
What happens in Kenya is that people equate faith to God's voice. It's not our relationship with God, it's God speaking. So when the pastor speaks, it's God speaking.
Yeah.
And there's no room for you to respond as a human being in faith, and taking responsibility for what you are saying. So when that I have been processing that for many years, but now it became alive. And then now I started saying, I have to practice my faith in a way that makes sense to me when it comes to justice, love, and dignity. So I do a lot of sort of like biblical reflections from my perspective as a teacher, not as a pastor, as a teacher. I do a lot of biblical reflections. These days I talk a lot more about faith in my classroom, not preaching faith, saying this is why we need to know. God has put us here. God has created knowledge. It is our duty as Christians to know. And that does not exclude others. It does not say that if you're not a Christian, because God, the sun shines on everybody. It doesn't shine only on the people who are faithful and the ones who are, and the ones who are not put aside. So it's not a thing of I'm excluding people but I'm just saying how we see God is who brings us together. God brings us together. Knowledge is our conversation with each other. So now I go to church, sorry to say, as a war. Me, I go to fight. I know pastors will be shocked, but me, I go to fight. I go to fight. I go to hear what are pastors saying that is nonsense, because they are saying a lot of nonsense. And how do I respond to it? Through knowledge, through faith. And then now I take that to either my classroom or my reflections or my YouTube channel. But that's how I go to church. Sorry, pastors. Sorry. I'm coming to a battleground as far as I'm concerned. It's a war. It's a war for the soul of people. And I can't keep on saying, oh, pastors are bad, I'm not going to show up. I have to be there. I have to know what they are saying, and I have to respond to it. So that's how I go to church. I go to church. I am in the church, but not of the church.
That's like what you told me. That's what you told me. You told me be in the church, but not of the church. And that really, because we are talking about a system. And that the thing is, we are not talking about what Jesus left and what Jesus did. We are talking about this system. The institution, the institutionalized, personalized spaces that are here to protect themselves and to run this enterprise. And for now, once people hear you and they see you in churches, they will come. They will come and resource you.
I know. I know.
They will come and I'm trying to see. There's something you texted me. That's what I was looking for here. Let me.
I don't know if I can be saying this. The other thing, even though I go as war, the other thing I made a decision. I'm going for, I take that verse of Jesus. Come all of you who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Imagine me, I go for that. So if people start telling me, oh, tithe, oh, this project, oh, this what, me imagine I'm not listening. I'm so sorry, I'm not listening. I'm there to rest. I'm there to sing. I'm there to smile at people. I'm there to see babies. I'm there to be in community. I'm there for rest. So when people are talking, type me, I'm just like, I'm not there. You can't ask me to work. I'm not coming to church to work and to build institutions. I'm coming to rest. I'm tired. I'm tired. And again, I'm sorry to say I got this from Black American theology, because the sorrow songs of the slaves. Can you imagine people singing and you're in a plantation, being whipped? Freedom is coming and you don't know when it will come, but it's coming. That's what I just said. You know what? Even me, I'm going to operate my faith like that. So when I go to church, I go to rest. All those other things people are saying, oh, this project, oh, that project, oh, this. I'm not there. I don't listen. I'm there to rest. I'm there to lay my soul at the feet of God. Once I've done that, I go home. Now, if you want a new church, a new building, a new school, I'm not there.
You're not a part of that.
I'm not there.
So one of the things that is very interesting is what theologies have been transported to this continent. Black theology hasn't.
Oh no.
Yes.
You have to dig for it.
White evangelical American theology has. And I want to connect this with with something you said that I was looking for, that you go there for the rites. You go for the communion. You go for the songs. You go for the people, for the babies, you said.
Yeah.
Why would you say that the theology that is transported is not the liberative one that we know? And what do we do about it?
That's an education problem. Eh?
Yeah.
So in a sense, that's why I can deal with it. Because I can see it's an education problem. Hey, there are two things. I was thinking about this before I came. I think we've not understood what the missionaries did spiritually because of this whole big language about banning African cultures and that nonsense. I think it's nonsense. We've not understood really what missionaries did. And what missionaries did was to put a ceiling on everything.
Yeah.
You get education, you can only go this far. You become creative, you can only go this far. And their logic was, they had a very solid logic about it. Their logic was, because many of them are middle class, they are coming from Britain, where you have the king, the aristocracy, then there's the peasants at the bottom. So this middle class of people who are educated, very educated, business people. So they are not aristocrats, but they have wealth and knowledge.
Yeah.
Those are where the missionaries came from. So especially Kenya. Kenya, more than anywhere else, we had the highest number of very educated missionaries.
Yeah.
So they came with that ideology of, we stay in the middle. Our job is to maintain the system. So even them, that's what they were doing. In fact, when they started, amazingly, they started as defenders of the African. Because Africans can't defend themselves, they are the defenders of the African interests. And then it started becoming too ridiculous. People started saying, come on. Now when they start educating a few Africans, the cow people and what, they start saying, this is ridiculous. As we want to be in the legislature, what do you mean that it's the missionaries in the legislature on our behalf? So now when Eliud Matthew is entering, he's saying, no, we don't need to be represented. We can represent our own interests. But that logic of mediocrity, of the middle, of the average, that's what came in with Christianity in Kenya.
Yeah.
And that's what the church is doing, unfortunately. Because they have not interrogated the roots of why did the missionaries come beyond the ceremonial, they came to steal our cultures and what. What did they actually do to us? They made us accept mediocrity. They made us stay in the middle. They made us not want to excel and to go beyond. That's what they did. So I think once you understand that, then now you can, for me, I can see my spiritual battle very clearly, which is whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is honorable, think on these things.
Yes.
We are not going to do average here.
Yeah.
We have to be excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then my other verse is the one of Hebrews 11, Hebrews 12. Which one? Now, since we are surrounded with so great a cloud of witnesses.
Yeah.
So who are our witnesses? For Kina Wazungu, it might be Abraham, Isaac, what? Good for you. Mine is Bishop Tutu, Elijah Masinde, Kim Pavita, Simon Kibangu. Those are my cloud of witnesses.
Yeah.
So I have my own Hebrews 11, where I'm saying this is my cloud of witnesses. These are the people whose faith has made my faith what it is today.
Yeah.
So that's how I straddle. But coming to the question of theology, we've not interrogated what the missionaries did.
Yeah.
We are just continuing with this colonial theology of how do you get the natives, build a school, build a hospital. Yeah. So that's why, especially from these Mutaratara churches I come from,
yes,
you go to a congregation, you start raising money for a school, you start raising money for a project, and the women raise money for an income generating something.
Yeah.
Come on. I'm so tired of that model. Because people need ministry. Our hearts are being battered.
Yeah.
Our dignity is being assaulted every day.
Yeah.
And then I go to church, you want me to build something? No. No, I've refused.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think, I don't know, it's an education problem that our theology is divorced in Kenya, is divorced from thinking.
Yeah. And realities.
And reality.
Yeah.
But you see, even the education system, that's what it does.
Yeah.
It divorces people from reality.
Yeah.
And I never saw it, imagine, me teaching all these years, until like 4 years ago. Let me give the story shortly and then you now ask the next question.
Yes.
I had a student, I'll keep telling this story because it's so fascinating. I had a student who was a biomedical student. He gave me this paper, clearly downloaded.
Yeah.
I had told the students, you have to write on something that matters to you, that is related to your experience. So he gives me a paper on irrigation in Makueni County. Any student will tell you, I always tell this story in my class. So he gives me, and I can see it's those my downloaded papers. You insert Makueni here and there, and then now you present. So I called him and asked him, why are you giving me an irrigation paper? He said, how do you know about Makueni? He said, I was at the level 5 hospital as part of my internship. So I said, okay, so where is irrigation coming from? You're a biomed student. You're not a farmer. You're not. Where is irrigation coming from? He told me that he noticed there was a problem that many of the cases that came into the hospital were malnutrition cases, meaning people who didn't have enough food or enough healthy food to eat. So that's the cause of their illness. So I asked him, okay, fine, granted. So I asked him, but you lived there throughout. Where did you get food from? He said the market. So what are the sources of food for the residents? He couldn't tell me.
Yeah.
I asked him, okay, you're saying there has to be irrigation. Is there a river nearby? See, that place is dry. So what are they going to irrigate with? So that's when I realized what happens with our education system is that you're taught to disconnect from reality.
Yeah.
And when you start asking questions about reality, we are gaslighted. We are told that's not coming in the exam.
Oh, yeah.
Stop bringing, irrelevant things. There's a language in the education system that makes sure people never relate to their environment.
Yeah.
And how I confirmed it is that last semester, I asked my students to write about their lives. They couldn't. I believe it there.
Where?
They could not.
That is. And so, who's that? Is that guy who said the unexamined life is not worth living? Yeah. And so we are not
examining our lives.
We are not examining our lives, and we are not examining it in lieu of the social, political, economic, religious systems. And so we are just, that thing that's tossed by the waves. We just follow whatever wave that comes because we are not examining it.
But we're not allowed. Yeah. That's the interesting thing for me.
Yeah.
We're not allowed to examine. You'll just hear. In fact, these days I hear it a lot. People say, let's not blame. Are you saying this is wrong? So when you see people having to go on the defense, then you've been gaslighted.
Yeah.
Yes.
So as we are laying that, there's a statement you told me earlier that your faith carries is the faith that liberates. Yeah. And that you're the faith that carried the black enslaved people in America, the faith of your parents, and the faith of the people who fought for the liberation.
Yes.
There was faith here, and there is faith here in the African continent. Even before the missionaries were here.
Yeah.
There was expressions of godliness and godness. Even before we came and were told who God is, we knew who God is.
Yes.
And one of the reasons is we all have the name of God in our mother tongue. There's an expression of godness in all of us, in all our words. I want to connect this with a struggle we both share.
Yes.
Where when we are in the activist space, we are not activist enough, and we are not. And then when we're in the Christian faith, we are not Christian enough.
Yeah.
Because why are you bringing God in this space and God is not in this story? And then why are you bringing justice in this faith story because it is not here?
Yeah.
What do you say about that? And what has your experience been? And how do you navigate that world?
It's capitalism. Capitalism thrives on fragmentation. So that's a fragmentation. When you have faith on one side and justice on the other, and the two never meet, that's a fragmentation. For a long time, I was doing the secular. I was buying into the secular thing, doing human rights, whatever. And then I realized there's a part of our soul that is not covered by human rights. There's a part of our soul that wants to cry when things are bad, that wants to rejoice and be happy, but also to accept that we can't see everything. We are human beings. The world is bigger than us. And there was a part that I just felt was not being addressed by that human rights discourse. And then, of course, the problem with human rights is that it puts humanity at the center of the world, as if crocodiles don't need rivers, as if mountains don't need snow peaks, as if we are the only creatures in the planet. I couldn't,
and we have to conquer mountains.
Yes. Dam rivers. I mean, I had started to see that for me to accept justice for the next person, I also have to see the world. I have to have a sense of the world is bigger, and my duty to this human being comes from the world. It's not just my goodness, my personal goodness, my individual education or what. It's a demand of the universe that I must be kind to another human being. So when I started seeing that, which was, in fact, this dawned on me like for 4 years. I mean, it's not I've not always been like that. It's something that started coming to me. So now I've started being more deliberate about faith and saying faith has to have justice. I mean, come on. And also talking about our ancestors, the people who fought in faith. And there are many Africans. The list is long.
Yeah.
There are many Africans. So I started saying my faith must speak to that. It's lonely, let me just say. And that's what this conversation is for. It's for us to say we are not alone. You're here, I'm here.
Yeah.
There are others. There are people who are going to listen to us and say, I'm with you.
Yeah.
I also want to marry the two.
Yes.
I don't want to have to split myself. That at church, I forget about Gaza. And when I'm in school, I forget about my faith. That's not possible for us.
Yeah.
But also, I think we need to understand that's what capitalism does. Capitalism, at the core of it, is to fragment. It's to break people into pieces. So it's not only breaking us into tribes so that we hate each other, but it's breaking our humanity so that your your emotion is disconnected from your thinking, is disconnected from your society. That's what it does. So for us to say, no, we want to connect these things, that already alone is an act of resistance. And us coming here together is to build that community. Because I think there are people out there who feel like us, but we need to find each other because the system is against us. So we just keep talking in faith that we will find each other. And we will grow.
Yes, and for real, this is a shout out to all of you. Any one of you who is in this world, justice world, is a person of faith, and you're looking for a space to immerse yourself. That's the reason Msingi Trust exists, and that's the reason we are having these conversations. We are connecting the worlds of faith, justice, and activism. And Wandia, for people who do not understand, capitalism sounds like a very big word.
I know, it does.
What is capitalism? It's like for a class 1 kid.
For a class 1 kid.
What is capitalism?
I would say that's a good question. I think it's the worship of, I want to say worship of money, but it's more than that. I think I would just, let me go fragmentation of the soul. You break people down so much so that, and that's not the goal. The goal is so that you can work and your work will be exploited by somebody else. You see, you can't do that to me when I have all my faculties together. When I know my work is an expression of love, I know that the economy is important to me. You know, when all the parts of my human being are together, you can't come and tell me, do this work and you will get nothing for it. I'll tell you, no, that's unjust. It's against God's will. I'll say, I can also say, I'm going to fight you. So what capitalism does is to fragment you, to say your reason is separate from your emotion, is separate from your physical being. It gaslights you every time you say, but this, you're told, no, the issue is the other. So that's the goal of capitalism, to fragment us so that we can work and our work will be exploited. That's a long... I think for you to understand really the damage of capitalism, you have to understand what it means to be human. And capitalism has been so effective, it has destroyed that. It has destroyed that understanding of humanity.
Where we don't find joy in the simple things, where we have even our hobbies are monetized. Where
relationships are monetized.
You
You can't fall in love, you can't whatever without us having to have a conversation about who is paying the bills. Are you being a real man or a real... Oh, come on. Come on.
So the reason I needed us to explain what capitalism is that I also want to connect it with the church. How does capitalism, and what are the expressions, especially in this Kenyan system, how do we find capitalism has crept into the church?
First, even the separation of faith and justice. That's a fragmentation. You're basically saying what I believe has nothing to do with society and the world. You've individualized faith. So that's already the first evidence of what capitalism does.
Can I I've just remembered this. Sometime, I don't know if you remember this. There was someone who posted some time ago, and I screenshotted it and sent it to you on NHIF, and said, why are we being forced to pay NHIF? Isn't this, why can't we, if you have the money, why can't you be allowed to just pay for your private services? Pay for your private services, as opposed to being forced to pay this national health plan. Why am I I'm rich.
I can afford I'm
rich. Why the hell are you allowing me are you forcing me to pay 800 to this system that I will never benefit from? And this is a Christian man, governance expert.
Oh.
Yes.
That's stupidity also, eh?
Yes.
Because that doctor was trained with our taxes. These kids who are treating us, they went to school, University of Nairobi. We paid. So you can't say, oh, I'm paying, actually because I'm paying 2K for consultation, I have paid for my health. No, you have not. You have not paid for that kid whose mother sold coffee or fish to take him to school so that he can become a doctor. You have not paid for those 20 plus years.
Yeah.
You have not paid for the construction of the hospital.
Yeah.
You have not paid for the roads that will take you there. You cannot pay that with 2K consultation fee. So for somebody, a governance expert, to even say something, that is stupidity. Yeah. But that's a fragmentation I'm saying. There's a way everything is disconnected in Kenya. You're told, in fact, people tell you not to connect.
Yes.
When you say, but these people say, oh no, that's irrelevant, that's another thing. Oh, you're bringing new. That's how Kenyans talk. It's to disconnect. They make sure you keep disconnecting those things. So, capitalism in the church, one thing I have stopped liking is this personal faith thing.
Yes.
I know our parents were in the revival. They said Jesus was their personal savior. And I was trying to ask myself when I was coming, what's the difference? I think the context is different. Then they were dealing with a colonial situation. And there was a dilemma for African Christians who didn't believe the missionary support of colonialism. So for them, they expressed it by saying, me personally, I'm not doing what the church is doing. This is my personal salvation. I have a personal relationship with God. I think after independence, we should have revised that. What does it mean to be a Christian? Is it a personal thing anymore? But we continued with the language of personal salvation. So what happened is that now it turned into individual Christianity. As long as I'm good, I'm doing my Bible reading, I'm doing this, I'm good.
Yeah.
The other problem is that we got evangelical Christianity. You see, before independence, the dominant Christianity was the imperial one. So there was a power project which is connected to institutions. What evangelical Christianity did, especially after SAPS, because after SAPS is when it entered the mainstream church.
We need to talk about what SAPS is for people who don't know.
Okay, in the early 1990s, the IMF did what the IMF is doing now, which is to say, because they were no longer scared of communism because it had fallen, the IMF now told Kenya, all the social services which the government has been paying for, the government must stop paying for those services. They must privatize education, healthcare, and sell government assets so that now services like education and healthcare are privatized. It's you who pays for yourself. And that was happening in the 90s. So, I think there was a capture there because I was finishing campus around that time. And then all of a sudden, there are all these churches in hotels, in whatever, very posh American preachers. They are singing with guitars and sound systems and what. And then the message they are telling you is, like one particular church, which I will not name because my friends still attend, one particular church was pushing for homeschooling, meaning don't take your kids to the local schools. See, now the schools are crumbling because they are being defunded.
Yeah.
So here is the escape route. Don't take your kids to school, homeschool them. And then the women stay at home because that's God's will for the nuclear family, that kind of thing. So that kind of messaging came at the time that the institutions were crumbling. So a lot of us who were just coming out of school, starting to get married and have children, we entered.
And if you're not homeschooling, you're not with it.
You're not with it.
Yes.
What? So we were captured there. That shift in the 1990s made the church now become a business institution. The mainstream churches, which had been talking about governance and politics, were now starting to be sidelined and starting to be taken over by people who admire the evangelical preachers. The flamboyance, the wealth, the fact that these pastors of evangelical churches control the coffers of the church. The churches are very vibrant. The singing is, like a band and all that. So I think that's how all the churches entered that wave. And then the third thing I would say is our model of success. You see, before the 1990s, there was the so many vijana.
Yeah.
You go and get a good job.
Yeah.
So there was a sense in which there was a pride in being a professional, an engineer, a doctor, a teacher. You teach all these years, your students come back and say, yeah, you are my teacher, like that. Now in the 1990s, what was the symbol of success was wealth. That you are you have a lot of money, you dress well, you are a CEO. The CEO became this thing. Have you ever had kids saying, I want to be a CEO when I grow up? It's not a job, sorry. Yeah. It's not a job. Yeah. But it's not a profession.
Yeah.
It's not work. It's a position. Anyway, so because of that, even the clergy got sucked into that. Now they started wanting to be CEOs of their churches. I remember one PCA clergyman telling us he's the chief executive of his church. And I'm like, oh my God, you have no idea what you're saying. You should not be saying this in a church.
Yeah.
But,
here we are.
So we started taking our model from business. So even now, churches, instead of branches, we are franchising. We have the whole business thing. Now there's even MBA. I had the other day, there's MBAs for church leaders. It's just like, what? I mean, come on. So we took our cues from business.
Actually, one of the things that someone said, they said it in passing and they didn't know the impact of what they had said, is that it is very telling that when pastors transition out of churches, they go ahead and start businesses and they do not go into service of people.
Yeah, that's the model now.
Because what they've always known is to enterprise people, not to serve. So you won't see someone transitioning from being a pastor to become a doctor, to become a nurse, to become a
actually.
Yes.
Yeah, they don't. You go into business.
You go into business.
Actually, they don't become primary school teachers.
No.
No, they don't.
Yes. It's the thing they know is enterprise.
Yeah, they've learned it from the church.
Yes.
And you see, the church as an enterprise is very good because you get free labor.
Yes.
That's what I realized. Yes. It's free labor. If you need to get land, you tell your congregation members, are you a lawyer? Are you in lands? Are you what? Can you look for the title deed? That is work, which if I want to buy a piece of land, I have to pay for.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they get a lot of free labor like that. Even planning, architecture, you get the architect in the, I'm saying for the upscale churches. You get an architect in the congregation to design the church for free. You get, if there's a clinic, you get the doctors in your church. Like that.
But what about the people who want to serve? What do you do about that? So if there's someone who feels very like, I am committed to this church, the church needs an architect. I want to offer my services for free. What do you say about that?
What the pastor should do is to walk to Kibra and say, do you see this thing here? We want to design or whatever. Do it. That's the service. It's not saying, design for us a very good sanctuary. Yeah.
I just came from listening to Reverend Linda's sermon on Amos.
Yes.
That she did at Nairobi Chapel. And she said that slums are a result of us not willing to do it.
Yes.
And what you're saying connects to that is that we could solve that problem in a minute if we said, let's sort this. And so when you say that the wisdom and the skills that are within the faith institutions should be used for our neighborhood, should be used for the community, for serving, go you into the world.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not just go you into the world and stopping there and saying we've gone, but what are we doing in this world? Yeah.
And then you see, and this is why pastors have a lot of power which they don't use, but what they can do is say, I have 10 architects in this congregation. Why does Nairobi look how it is?
Yeah.
Tell me, why is zoning not working? Why are we cutting trees? Why are there no parks? Why are there no primary schools? Come and tell me. You come a whole day and tell us what kind of city do people need.
Yeah.
In the name of God.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And you give me a document which now, as pastors can say that says the Lord. Mm-hmm. Why are there slums? Why are there no primary schools? Why are there... You see... So it's a lack of imagination because the church has decided, oh, there are no schools, we'll build one. Oh, there are no hospitals, we'll build one. And meanwhile, I'm being taxed for the same hospital to be built.
Yes, and then the cost becomes too prohibitive.
Yeah.
Once you build it, that your people who contributed 20 bob to that brick cannot send their children.
Yeah.
And that's also one of the things I find that's different from what missionaries did, is that everyone could attend that school. The schools that churches are building now
are exclusive.
Yes.
Even the church, the heads of those churches, they're in Kepsa. Yeah, some of them.
Yeah.
So they're in Kepsa membership.
Yeah.
I'm like, eh? Yeah, they're there. They're
Kepsa is the Kenya Private Sector
Alliance, which is the lobby group for private sector businesses.
Yes.
When on the education, the people who are dealing with education, there are pastors in that group.
Yeah.
Because they own schools.
Yeah.
So
that is a problem. And this is why we are saying we need to connect these dots.
Yes.
Because there's someone who will say, Carol, now surely, why is that a problem? It is a problem because what that means now is schools and education become more and more a private entity. And what that means is that we don't have access to education. And then we are educating in a for private, not for the public. Our mindset should always be for the public,
yes,
not for the private. And this brings me to the question on class.
Yeah.
Classism in Kenya is a problem.
It is.
A huge problem. We make fun of it. We sometimes don't even see it. And it has crept. It has been institutionalized. It has found a home in how we do faith.
Yes.
What would you say about class, Kenya, faith, and justice?
That's a hard one. You've asked me a hard one.
Yeah.
You see, the arbiter of class in Kenya is the education system. You see, that's why I keep going to education, because education is at the foundation of a lot of these problems. Class in Kenya is decided by education. So, people in certain classes are there because they went to good schools, quote unquote, and got into the professions where they're at. But that system was there from up to the 90s. Why do I say the 90s? Because in the 90s is when you see the first post-independence kids. The kids who are now born under independence are now entering the market, but there's no space for them. So now what happens is the kids who can enter the market are the ones whose parents had an education. So that's what's happening now. Now it's not... Before, there was the chance of a child from the village with no shoes, going to school, doing very well, and entering this prestigious school, and now entering the middle class and the elite. That has now drastically reduced because the positions are fewer, the population is more. So now the people who succeed are the ones who have parents who succeeded. So if you take, for example, education, now like the national schools, there's the admission, which is official, but there's also the admission where you pay 250K for admission. That was not there before, but now it's there.
It's like that legacy admission thing that's in Ivy League schools.
Yes. Yeah. So we are there now. So the church has not spoken to it. It has not... see, now even their education... and many of those posh schools, the prestigious ones, were built by the church. Alliance is a church school.
Yeah.
So the church was part of facilitating this elitism, where there's a class of people who are better than others. So the church has not interrogated what it should be doing in 2024, because they're still talking like missionaries. They're still saying, okay, let's raise money for our school. Let's raise money for our hospital. But I think we are past there. Now we should be saying, what does God say about health?
Yes.
What does God say about education? Is the church best serving the public by doing the literal building of schools, or by becoming a voice for education and saying we should not be having an education that is so unequal? So I think we are refusing to grow up, I would say that, and that's why now it is caught up in those dynamics of class. So even the pastors, if you are in a denomination like ours, all the pastors want to go to this particular church.
I know which one.
Yes, they want to go to this particular church because it's, that's where you'll get money. You'll hobnob with people and whatever else. And then even the members, because they are not being told about society, about where we live, who are we living with, what's happening, they become comfortable. And now they just think, we're just members of this church. We are raising money for our home. We are raising money for scholarships, but they're not talking about social relationships.
Yeah, yes. You don't look beyond this, the charity.
Yes.
And doing what Desmond Tutu calls going upstream. Because Desmond Tutu has a quote that says that at sometimes there comes a time when we have to stop pulling people out of the river and going upstream to find out why they're falling in.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
We're not doing that work.
So the charity work is the pulling people out of the river, which sometimes is necessary.
It's important.
But then the going upstream, I feel, is the work that the church is not able to do or doesn't want to do.
It can't because of its roots and its theology. It's still a Christian missionary theology of educate the natives, treat the natives. I think they are stuck there.
Is it possible then to remove... I'm having very many questions that are sparking from this, because I see the excitement that happens when there's white Americans who come to our churches.
Yes.
It's like, oh my gosh, Honoka, we are saved.
And me that time, I'm just like, oh Lord, why did I come to church today? When I see them. Okay. Sorry, it's not against them, but...
Yes. Yeah. So there's that one. But also there's the reality that there's American wealth that comes, that is courted, that supports that reality.
It does.
Yeah. And then there's the question about... And I'm thinking about people who are still struggling with the colonial implications or the colonial connectedness of the expression of the Christian faith that is here.
Yes.
What do we say to the two worlds, where we are in this reality that there is excess in America and there's some strength when they come and support the work it comes with its implications, the same way with donor funding, because
Yes.
this is like donor funding.
It is, yeah.
Yes. And then there's this other side where there's someone who's an activist who has been a Christian, was a Christian, still struggles with the colonial connectedness of this expression of the Christianity we have. And wants to nothing to do with it, but still feels like this is where I've drawn from. This is something that brings me joy, but it's not full. I don't know if those two questions are connecting and those two worlds are connecting for you.
They're connecting. You'll have to remind me because I'm getting carried away.
Yes.
Okay. What was the first one?
The one about the
American.
The American.
I wanted to say something about America.
Yeah.
Oh, la, la, la. Hey, I hope I'll be able to explain this simply and quickly. One thing we don't grapple with is the difference between American and British imperialism.
Mm-hmm.
British imperialism is about hierarchy, status, and what? American imperialism, what it did, especially in the 70s, 60s and 70s after independence, was to tell the churches, no, as we respect your culture. You see, because the major critique, which is a very flawed one, the major critique of Africans of colonialism was this culture is foreign. And we can talk about that on another day, why that argument is bad. It's so misleading. Mm-hmm. But because they said that it's a foreignness, the problem is the foreignness, not the power, not the exploitation, it's the foreignness, which is a very bourgeois argument. What Americans did was to piggyback on that argument and say, no, as we respect your cultures, we are not going to override. In fact, there's no white supremacy here. As we are like you, we are just coming from one church partnership. We're just coming from one partnership to the other as we are partners.
Yes.
Yeah. We are not here as missionaries like the British did. We are not here to promote the British Empire. We are here as partners. So that problem made the African church, the Kenyan church, very blind to the power relationships. So Americans were able to smother us with money and make us distract us from answering fundamental questions about faith, whether faith should be about just building hospitals and schools. You know, what is justice? What is love for our neighbor? What is a good country? All those questions, Americans were giving us money to say, no, you don't have to ask those questions. If there's a hospital, here is money to build it. So you never have to ask, what is healthcare?
Yeah.
Why is the healthcare like this? What? So that's the damage that American evangelical Christianity brought to Kenya. One is to make us not ask social questions. And they blinded us with the money.
Yeah.
So now if you go to an evangelical church, if you start saying, oh, but there's an outbreak of cholera, then they'll say, oh, the doctors come, let's solve the cholera. But they're not going to talk about why is there no healthcare.
Yeah.
That one, and Americans were very good with this. The other thing they did was to give a lot of scholarships. You know, this airlift. We really have to think again about it.
Yeah.
But many of the people who were given scholarships to study did missiology, not theology. Missiology, you're treating Africans like the natives and you're evangelizing. You just want to bring them to the Lord and tell them, oh, say this prayer after me. But you're not going to take them to the next level and say, is these social relations, is that what God wants? And now I've been asking around and people are saying the people who did theology, they say they did liberation theology. I am not very convinced.
Can I tell you? I studied in this continent. And it was in a very progressive school. But let me tell you, liberation theology, black theology was all
one unit.
In one slide. No, it was not even a unit. It was a slide.
And what were you told it was? Because in my younger days, people used to say it was evil. Those were
it was like other theologies. You know how you are like reading about other theologies. So there is womanist, liberation,
Yes,
black theology. Do you know I knew about James Cone after he died? I know.
It's okay. At least you know him now.
Yes, yes. But I knew about James Cone after he died.
Wow.
And that's when 2016 around 2016.
2016. Me, when I was in school and campus, I used to hear pastors saying that it's evil. Yeah, that's... In fact, they even used to condemn theology in total. They used to say, we don't need theology. What you need is the Bible.
Yeah.
And that's another thing I wanted to say about American Christianity. It's very literal. Literal. By the book. There's no room for interpretation or revelation. If it's revelation, it has to come from the pastor.
Yeah.
But there's no integration of revelation and interpretation in our daily lives. There's no room for an ordinary person to say, this river is polluted. What does my faith say about that?
Yeah.
There's no room for that. If you want those kinds of interpretations, you have to go to church on Sunday. And they are very literal. Very literal. They interpret the Bible like it is 2 + 2 is 4.
Yeah.
And it's so annoying.
It is.
It's completely
so many ways
annoying.
Of seeing scripture.
I know.
Yeah.
So that literariness has also been facilitated by the schools. Remember, the schools were told, market.
Yeah.
Don't learn anything that has no direct relation to the market, which means arts is out. So the arts where we are taught to interpret, to live with ambiguity and complexity, and to know that not everything is a formula, they are already out of the school system.
Yeah.
Then you have American evangelical Christianity. What kind of Kenya do you have? A very literal Kenya
Kwanza,
that can't think.
The people who, I'm sure I'll get in trouble for this, who is these guys who do apologetics.
I know, I know.
And
some are my friends.
And how the apologetics world is basically what the based on white evangelical male voices, and how that translates to the Kenyan world as well, and the Kenyan realities.
There's a sermon I heard once. I was so... Okay. Sorry, I hope the pastor involved will not hear me say this. But he was giving scientific proof of the resurrection. I was like, no, resurrection is faith.
Yeah.
You can't prove it in a lab. I mean, if it's a lab, why have faith?
Yeah.
So why are you using science? But that's what America did. It made faith so literal and scientific and evidence-based that you can't have faith unless you're seeing a manifestation of what you're praying for. So, like, if I have faith that there'll be justice one day, if there's no proof now, I'm told that is delusion.
Yeah.
But faith is actually the assurance of things
not seen.
Yeah. So we are not allowed, our minds and our souls are not allowed to go beyond the visible. That's what American Christianity did to us. And it's, me, I don't know how we are going to undo that damage.
It's huge. It's
huge.
And they're now investing especially in young people.
Yeah.
And with all the missions and all of that. Yeah. But I want us to go to the other
side
of the person who's is struggling with faith and justice and the colonial expressions
the links
of yes
to that one. I don't know what to say. Really, that's a hard one. Because the real problem is the way we teach about colonialism. The middle class captured discussion of colonialism and talked about it only as culture. And with that cultural narrative, you have us and them, Europeans and us. what that has led to is is identity politics, where you are now rejecting Christianity not for what it is saying, and it's important to interrogate what is it saying. Because I think European Christianity is different. I am not I don't practice European Christianity, and I can explain what I consider to be European Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
So people don't want to do that work because we've fallen in this identity thing. It's about Africans and Europeans. It's not about power. So people who don't want to interrogate power and history, who think it's just going to be about identity and saying the white man stole our culture, imagine there's no hope for them. Let them reject Christianity. Let them reject it because they don't want to think. How do you help them? Let them reject it. They are rejecting it rather than embracing it. Let them reject it. I've given up on that group because I've been saying, let's interrogate what colonialism actually was.
Yeah.
What did it actually do to us? Like this middle class culture, mediocrity, education, all those things are also colonial problems.
Yes.
But the middle class doesn't want to interrogate
and
those
also,
ones.
we don't want to reject capitalism.
And we don't want to reject capitalism.
That's also another...
Wachana now. Let them... I've given up.
So there's the conversation around not wanting to reject capitalism, not wanting to reject all those other things that came with colonialism.
Yes.
In one sense. But also that what Jesus left is not colonial Christianity.
No, it's not. He was colonized.
Yes, and the social location of Jesus, who was born in Palestine, in Bethlehem, who suffered, who came to Egypt, was
exiled and then executed.
Yes, was executed. This place where, even though, what's his name, the theologian who it was from, what's his name, it starts with an A. There's a theologian who's African. I've forgotten his name.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. Of those BCD.
Augustine. Is it Augustine or Hippo?
Yeah, Augustine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Who had expressions. There was expressions of what has become Christianity long before the colonialists came here.
Yeah.
And that there's expressions of belief and a trust in a higher being, in a God of one way or another. And which now is, in one way, finds itself to be expressed in Christianity, in other religions as well. But what I am looking at is the person who is a Karo of 15, 20 years ago, who is a Christian, who's excited about justice, but is questioning about this interlinking, who is not free, even when they're in... Because there was sometimes when we had a faith and feminism conference.
Yeah.
And there was someone who was like, I really do not believe that I could bring these two worlds of mine together. That I'm a Christian and I'm a feminist. How can is it possible for me? So I'm looking at that person.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so those ones who have said, white man, wachana now,
Yes.
let them reject Christianity. I'm fine with it. It's okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not going to start telling them, but Africa, it's okay.
Yes.
Let them stay where they are.
Yes.
Now, the person who knows, first of all, they have to know that this is a lonely space.
Yeah.
Because of the system we are in. It's not because there are no people who think like that. It's the system we are in. We are in a system that doesn't want us to make those connections. So that's something they have to accept, that they are alone. Then, too, look for community. Listen to Carol's Msingi Trust podcast. Look for those communities where there are Christians who are saying, I am not accepting this division between Christianity and faith. And I think the other thing is we need clergy who are there, because we need to confess to them. We need them to say benedictions for us in a way that doesn't require us to let go of our passion for justice. So we have to accept that we are in an imperial system, the same imperial system that Jesus. It's the same Roman Empire.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a different empire, it's the same one. Because Jesus was under the Roman Empire, the British Empire is under the was a revival of the Roman Empire. Even their curriculum, they were learning about how Rome did imperialism. Those people who came here. So it's the same empire. So people have to realize they will be walking alone like Jesus did.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the faith. You walk alone. There will be Pharisees in the churches telling you, trying to trick you and to trap you into whatever. There'll be all these things, but people have to accept it's going to be a lonely path. Find your 12 disciples to take care of you, and then find a space where you can cry out to God and say, my Lord, why have you forsaken me? These pastors who tell us not to cry, not to doubt, that we cannot say like Thomas, I need to touch his side before I believe.
Let me tell you who's my favorite. My favorite disciple is Thomas.
Exactly.
I'm glad Thomas had a place.
Yes. And Jesus answered. Jesus didn't say, no, I'm not going to whatever. He said, touch me.
Yeah.
You wanted to touch.
Yeah.
So we have to look for those people who are going to do that for us.
Yeah.
That's the only way you can survive in this Kenya, because we are in a system that is against that. I know it because I see it every day. There is a war on the Kenyan soul.
Yeah.
There's a war against us saying, I can be a person of faith, I can be a person of reason, I can be a person of emotion, I can be an African, I can be global, I can be all these things and more.
And more.
And more. That's what it means to be human. We have to do the work, unfortunately, of looking for those spaces. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
But it is rewarding.
It gives joy.
Yes.
It's one of the things that give me joy as well.
Yeah.
As we are winding up, I don't know if you know this, but when you used to blog and you wrote on love and revolution. Yes. Yeah. I really followed your love story. Yeah. And one of the things that I was like, if Wandia can find a person, so can I.
Yes.
Yes.
A person is there.
A person is there. What is the place of love, of partner love, of communal love, of husband-wife relationships? What is the role and the place of love in the fight for freedom?
Whoever you love, they must be in the revolution. Aki.
Yeah.
They must be. They must see that this world we are in is not right.
Yeah.
And even my friends, and even you, when you get that person, the first thing when I call you and say, hey, I hear, the first thing I'll ask you is, does he know who you are? Yeah. Does he know what you're about? Does he know this consciousness?
Yeah.
So I think you have to. God was good to me, I think, but you see, it took a very long time. I got married in my 40s. I think it's important to love somebody who is in the revolution, who is understanding that this world is crooked, it is breaking people, and our job is to minister to people and heal those wounds. So that is something Chris was very committed to. He was saying, I want us, when we get married, that our home, us together, will be people who are healers because we love one another. Because you and I love one another, other people are healed because of us. In whatever way, whether it's him talking to them or me or whatever. All the people who interact with us, we bring healing because between the two of us, that's what our relationship is about. We also came together. I think, this was just a miracle how we came together. But you see, if you read his story, he was a man who was broken and was and God healed him.
Yeah.
I mean, the story is there. and that healing was also about understanding that this world I am in, there's something wrong. That my alcoholism is connected to the way I was relating to the world. It's not just a personal flaw. He wouldn't put it that way, but that's what I saw. And for me, that was important, that he had a consciousness about the world.
Yeah.
And number 2, he owned his story. That one, me, I'm always, that has always been something for me. People who own their story, who say, this is who I am, I've come from here. It's not a pretty story, but it's who I am.
Yeah.
And I'm working on it. So the fact that we are together, in fact, actually, if you look, I've become bolder since I got married. Not because of my Mrs. title, but just knowing that I'm making sense.
Yeah.
And that's what he tells me. You know, I tell him many times, am I making sense? What is it that people are not getting? He gets me and I get him. Chris, I hope you know I get you. But so we are doing this revolutionary work together in our, whichever spaces we are in, there's a way in which we are both doing the same work. So that's important. And I saw it because of my own parents, that the one place that the government and the church never managed to break my father was at the home front. Hey, my mom was tough.
Yes.
My mom was tough. There was even a time the church would tell her, no, you know, you need to tell your husband to tone down. She would ask them, who brought us together? See, it's God. You're the ones who married us. You cannot put us asunder. So she was tough like that, very protective. So I learned that from her. And then, of course, now I see other couples. You know, when I look at Patrice Lumumba's letter to his wife, the way it's a very revolutionary letter, and yet it's a love letter. I love that letter. By the way, people go read it.
I'll go read it. I've not read it.
It's a beautiful love letter, but it's very political. So that, I think that many people have been hit by government or whatever at the marriage front. You give somebody's spouse a job, a really good job.
Yeah.
Things, very subtle things like that, but also the hit at your self-identity and your ego. So before we got married, and I've written a post about this, before we got married, we had to sit down together and we sat down together and said, this is who we are. This is what Kenya thinks about men and women, that men should be like this, women should be like this. We don't fit that profile. What are we going to do about it?
Yeah.
How do we navigate our marriage given what people will say about us and our profiles, especially on the education front?
Yeah.
So we made the agreement we made. I hope it's okay, Chris, for me to say it. The agreement we made was, whenever somebody makes that comment, you know those 2 comments?
Yeah, those 2 snide ones that enter somewhere.
We would say it. We come home and we say it. I met so-and-so, they made this comment. We are, and it's kind of hitting my ego.
Simmer in your spirit.
So that it doesn't simmer in your spirit and you start fighting and you don't know why you're fighting.
Yeah.
And it's funny, I think because of that, because we resolved it in our minds, after we got married, I was really scared that people would make really bad comments, especially when he became a student. And maybe I think they make them to him.
Yeah.
But the fact that we agreed, I think it reduced the incidence of such comments.
Yeah.
And we are very protective of our space.
Yes.
So we try to avoid, but I do this even for my family.
Yeah.
People say, oh, the Reverend, can he come to... I'm just like, that one, you go look for him.
You go look for him.
I'm not his secretary. My relationship with him is father-daughter. I'm not compromising it. So I do the same thing even with my marriage. We've agreed work things. We don't negotiate work things in our house. So like students will call him and say, can you give me your wife's number? And he's like, that one, go to the department, go what? But you're not using our relationship to get things which are institutional and have nothing to do with.
Yeah.
So just keeping it very clear who we are and how we operate in the space is what we protect each other in that way. He protects me more, I think, because I'm more vulnerable. But that's how the revolution works. You have to both be in that space where you see the world shouldn't be like this, and we want justice for people. Let me tell you, Carol, you can't marry somebody who doesn't do that. Sorry. If he's not there, leave it alone.
Leave it alone.
Leave it alone, because maybe they'll say, yeah, you know, I agree. Yeah, I agree. Then when you get married, he starts saying, but why are you saying this? Why are you not going here? Why are you...
Pima mdomo.
Yeah, you don't want that. And it's how the devil gets us, by the way. When we are not clear that our love, our faith, and our politics must be together. Must be together.
Yeah.
If they're not together, you get stories of sorrow where people are undermined through brothers and sisters, through spouses. You give a spouse a really good job, then you move to London, that gets you out.
I've seen that.
And those are really hard conversations to have.
I've seen that. And it's mostly when the woman is strong.
Yes. Look at the Mandelas.
Yes. I found that when the woman is a strong, outward-facing voice, there's things that happen, and then you have to, and it's always you have to move.
Yeah.
For the man.
You have to move for the man.
Yeah.
So even, I fear government jobs. Let me just say.
Yes.
I fear those jobs. So those are things like, you know, when somebody from government reaches out to me for something, I'm just like,
nataka nini? What do you want?
Even if they are flattering you and saying, oh, we want to do this, I'm just like, I'm not so sure. So imagine you have to have a very good bullshit radar. Sorry to use the word on such a podcast, but you have to have it and be very, very careful that you can be hit without knowing. Yeah. Yeah. So that's love and revolution, is that the people you love must also be in the revolution. That means you might wait for a long time, but God is good.
God is a redeemer of time.
Yes, God is good. The person will come.
Yes.
And keep doing the Lord's work. That's the other thing. I met Chris after I stopped being self-conscious. You know, I used to say, no, it's because I'm a lecturer. It's because I'm blogging. It's because and I was always apologetic about it and what. The day I said, you know what? I'm in the world. I'm going to do the work of the Lord. So I started this class called Creatives Academy. It was a lot of work. It was very tiring. But I opened it to the public as the Lord's work. And now one of the public was...
yes. For real. The gifts of the Lord are in the public.
Yes. So you just keep doing the Lord's work. Yeah. Somebody will come in that space.
Yes.
Yeah, when you're in the vineyard.
Fighting and crying and having mini heart attacks in McFry's at night.
Yes, that's where the person will come. But if you go looking in these posh churches,
will suffer. Yes. You mentioned your dad. I want to tell you, I don't know, I've never told you this, but my earliest memory of who a faith leader was your dad. And it was when I saw him, very sadly, when he was being beaten up, that clip. And for me, I think my love for what the role of, I think that's where that pastors can be different, the clergy can be different. That is where it was birthed. And I was very small. I can't remember. I was like I was young. It was just the first thing you remember seeing on TV.
Kids get shocked.
So, yes. So for me, I'd love to honor that and to share that memory for you as well. I know it must have been difficult and all of that, but it also shows that for us, and I don't know, maybe for you as well, the words that you say will impact someone in a way you do not know.
And by the way, the church was really mean around that time.
Yeah.
The things I heard from Christians. Mm-hmm. I remember once, I've never told this story because I don't like telling my personal stories. Mm-hmm. Because our lives were public because of him. So I don't like to talk about our family. But I remember once, after one of those beatings, we were in the hospital and the church member said, okay, let's pray. And they prayed for him to stop going on the street. I was like, so the good thing was, after the person left, we were just now laughing. We were like, what is that? What is that? How can somebody come and negate your life, your work, and they are coming to do it at the... I mean, that's the cluelessness of the Kenyan church. They're very clueless. So we just laughed it off.
Yeah.
Because I remember when he was praying, I was so angry. But then now when I saw it's not only me who is angry, I said,
we are sharing the same as a family.
Yes. Oh. So, I usually don't talk about that side of my life because growing up, people assumed they knew who he was. They thought he was a tyrant. They thought what? And then me, I'm like, this is a guy I play with when I go home. I ask him any questions. I ask him. And then you're, So I just said, you know what? I'm not going to explain to you. I just shut off.
Yeah.
So I never talk about our relationship. That's private.
Yeah. And thank you for sharing that bit and that bit with us. As we are winding up, we've been winding up like good Christians for the past 30 minutes. What is your heart's, what's your dream vision, heart's cry for this country? Where do you see us being, and what do we need to do to get there?
Let me just say I'm not invested in Kenya as such. I'm really not invested. I'm invested in Africans. I want Africans to be human again, to be human.
Yeah.
There is a way in which empire has hit us. They beat us up all the time.
Did you see?
We can't move.
Did you see? I'm sorry to cut you off in this. Did you see a clip of a Congolese guy running after? He'd just come from mining something. Then there was this Chinese people on a helicopter, and he was begging for some remnants of what the Chinese guy had. The Chinese guy was videoing it, and he was laughing. They're in Congo. These are the things that are in the community. These are the Congolese things. The Chinese man is the one on a helicopter taking minerals out. The guy is laughing. The guy is begging. This other guy is laughing. And then we have leaders who right now all in South Korea.
Oh.
Continental leaders in South Korea. Yet,
That's what bothers me. Yani, the thing that I say every night, maybe I don't say it directly, but that's what I cry to God about.
Yeah.
I cry to God about our humanity as Africans.
Yeah.
We are not allowed to grow. We are just not allowed to grow. And the West does it in such a subtle way that it's so difficult to see. It's in the water. It's like it's the water we drink. So, especially young people, I look at young people like these people who do startups, the tech things. Then a vulture capitalist comes, swoops in, says, I'm investing in the thing. Then the kid is there saying, yay, finally somebody has seen. And then you see now I can't say anything because people say, why are you jealous? But I see those vultures and I'm just like, oh, Lord God, this kid's idea is gone. And sure enough, the idea goes. Even all these scholarships they give to young people. I'm sorry, young Kenyans, this is just what it is. This is what it is. I'm not saying don't take those scholarships, but they are purposeful. They are capturing our young people, giving them all these accolades, and then when they are done with them, they dump them in their 40s, and then now in their 40s, people are wondering, how is it that I was traveling to Paris, to London, to what in my 30s, and now I can't get a job? This is what the empire does. I'm sorry. This is what they do to us. So when I think my dream is for people to understand it, because these are two small things. It's not the big things of, okay, they call helicopter is a big deal. It's visual, you can see it, you can understand it. It's these small ones that enter our system. We are not seeing, we think we are doing very well. Kumbe, they are capturing us and neutering us. And then they'll go to the next generation. Oh God, that haunts me. So my vision is for us to understand it. And to understand that Africa's greatest asset is us.
Is the people.
The people.
Remember, when we began, we said we are overpopulated.
Exactly. It's the people. So why are foreigners coming to do this to us? Imagine it's not just the resources in the ground. I'm now convinced it's not just the resources. It's us. They have to make us think in a certain way that there's nothing we can do about our lives. And so we just give up and say, foreign investors come. Give us jobs, come. We'll go to Dubai, come. Why is the African continent being hustled like this? And they already took our people in the 1600s. They came and colonized. Why are they still telling us about Dubai and foreign investment and what?
And our president is selling labor to these countries.
Yes. Why? It's because what they want is us. It's us. They know we Africans are spiritual people. Our feet are on the ground. Our hearts are in the sky. We know this world. Humanity started here. So they will keep on sabotaging us like this. So my vision for Africa is that we understand it. That's it. I just want us to understand that we have to take care of us. Us, each other. We have to take care of each other and our souls. And we have to connect to the earth and to our ancestors and to our history. Until we do that. And please, I'm not saying we reject the white man. It has nothing to do with... Okay, it will be part of it, but that's not the point. The point is to reconnect and to bring our souls together so that we are connected to the earth, the sky, humanity, everything. And then Africa will grow. But those are the things which we are being taught to reject, unfortunately. So, Africa, let's find our soul again. I just want us to be soulful people who love one another. And honor the ancestors. That's it. Imagine that's it.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you, Wandia. I don't know if you have that was an amazing party shot. And thank you for your time. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your love. Thank you to you as a family unit and the support that you've been to my family as well. I really, really appreciate it. Sana. So, thank you guys for tuning into this conversation. Please, let's keep remembering who we are. Let's remember that we are a people with a story, with a history, and with a future. We are people with a soul. And the world's that we live in is interconnected. And so we have to consistently connect the struggles that we are going through, and also connect the hope. It's not just about struggle, it's also about the hope. So until next time, let's keep doing justice. Kwaherini.